Welcome back to the NAIOP Solutions Series, the online briefing program that comes to you live every 2 weeks with positive strategies and practical tactics to help you succeed. My name is Sheila Vertino. Today's topic, retaining good tenants, is of critical importance given the current market conditions. And here to brief us is an expert on tenant retention, Susan H. Graham. Susan has 30 years of real estate experience with companies that owned and developed office buildings, shopping centers, industrial properties, and ground leases. For the past 20-plus years, she's managed and leased a $350 million property portfolio for the estate of James Campbell and the James Campbell Company, LLC, in Hawaii. And she has attained commercial real estate's most impressive designations, CPM, CCIM, and REALTOR. Susan is now providing commercial real estate consulting for private clients and is associated with Tenants Advisors, a new consulting company that provides owners, lenders, and service providers with asset-level strategies to achieve the highest value for the unique characteristics of the market and the property. A natural leader, Susan is a founding president of the Hawaii chapter of NAIOP and is on the National Board of Directors for NAIOP, and she serves as governor of the NAIOP Research Foundation. Today, she's put together a program to share with you the secrets of success for retaining tenants. Susan's presentation today includes ideas both from her own extensive experience as well as advice from other top property managers whom she interviewed to find out their best practices for retaining good tenants and satisfying those employees. Susan, welcome, and thanks for being with us today and sharing your ideas on tenant retention.
Thank you, Sheila. We've entered a new business cycle that's quite a change from where we've been in the most recent past. It can no longer be business as usual for both building owners and prospective and existing tenants. In an effort to retain and attract tenants to your buildings, there are a few things that should be considered. These concepts aren't new, but maybe we need to be revisited. First, understand your tenant's business. Become knowledgeable of your tenant's business, both generically and specifically, but by that I mean you need to understand the nature of your tenant's business and what distinguishes them from their competitors. Every tenant believes that their company is unique and has several special needs. You need to be able to credibly discuss the business, and if you want the tenant to have confidence in your concern and in your goodwill, they need to feel that you do understand their business. Managing solely by spreadsheet will not help you retain tenants. Templates and statistical analysis are good to have, but your tenants are more than a line entry on your Excel spreadsheet. I'm not convinced that that's been the way the practice has been done recently, but in these days of higher vacancies in the office buildings and shopping centers, which give tenants greater choices of new locations, more TLC is necessary to retain those good tenants. Second, respond reasonably to requests for rent relief or downsizing. In the current market, it's inevitable that you'll receive those requests. And it's important that you know what your parameters are in dealing with them. Be prepared to respond to these requests. Make sure that your organization has already internally discussed the broad parameters to discuss the issue. Know what your limits are. Know what your owner or management will and won't do in these situations. This should be a two-step process. First, listen to the request, and then formulate a personalized response within 3 business days. Don't just quote the lease provisions. This is something that, unfortunately, managers often do. But tenants in trouble have probably reviewed the lease. They have come to you because the lease is no longer working for them. Respond appropriately to legitimate calls for help. If it is a shakedown or a tenant who figures there's no harm in asking, be polite but firm. Say no when it is clear that the tenant is just seeing if it can get something from you. Don't be rude when presented with the classic question, other landlords are lowering their rents, why won't you? In today's economy, people who never asked for discounts in the past are likely to be seeing what they might be able to achieve. If in fact your competitors are lowering their rents, you may need to meet the market, but don't be stampeded by a tenant who is just testing the water. Downsizing may also be another way to address the tenant's business situation. Certainly the tenant should participate in some of the costs of the downsizing. This also, when you tell them that it might cost them something, is a useful way to determine if the request is legitimate. If you're considering a request for rent relief or downsizing, get the tenant's financial statements or tax returns. Insist that the tenant demonstrate to your reasonable satisfaction that its current financial condition may warrant this type of concession. However, if you are not even considering granting a tenant's request, don't make the tenant jump through hoops. You'll just turn disappointment into animosity. Don't treat the tenant who's requesting a concession as a beggar. Show the tenant respect and deal with it as a mutual negotiation. Third, remember that happy tenant employees equal happy tenants. Little things mean a lot. Keep the tenant's employees happy. This may influence how happy the boss is with the property. You need to remove some of the and replace some of the dissatisfiers that you may or may not be aware of, but replace paper products that shred or tear. Cheaper isn't necessarily better in this regard. Light fixtures that flicker or buzz, and keep the back of the house common areas maintained just as you would the main entry. Don't make areas that the tenant employees must walk through unpleasant or challenging. This is particularly true in a shopping center. Delivery areas, freight elevators, loading docks, storage rooms, and tenant parking areas should all be something that you'd be willing to walk anybody through. Fourth, go green well. Poorly executed green installations in your property will annoy the tenant, its employees, and its customers. Water faucets that don't deliver enough water to remove soap frustrate everyone and may discourage hand washing. They may have been installed correctly, but then they may have come out of adjustment over time, and certainly in this day when we're trying to encourage hand washing because of swine flu and colds, you need to make certain that these faucets work correctly. Automatic bathroom fixtures that flush improperly or too frequently waste water and make your efforts at green the subject of cynical remarks amongst your tenants and the bosses of the company. Automatic lighting fixtures that plunge workers or their conference rooms into darkness too often are a nuisance. I've had this happen to me, and everybody just sort of looks at each other in the dark until you figure out how you can get that automatic fixture to begin working again. Fifth, follow up with tenants. Make sure your tenants' questions get a response that is courteous but polite. Make sure that all your employees and contractors understand that they are the front line in tenant relations and make it a part of their job descriptions and contracts. Don't send a repair crew or installer into a tenant's place of business if you wouldn't use that same contractor in your president's office. Complaints about HVAC are the more common ones that I've faced in the past. And if you have not rebalanced your HVAC system as a result of your green upgrade, you might need to do that, especially if it hasn't been done in the last 3 to 5 years. Again, you can never make everybody happy, but with the temperature at the workstation, making an effort to getting close to that is important. This is initially, especially if you have removed or moved demising or interior walls in that 3 to 5 year time frame. Be consistent. Be sure that the answers that tenants receive from all members of your staff and ownership are consistent. Tenants will exploit inconsistency. They will choose the person from whom they can get what they want. And this will undermine your credibility with the tenants. Seventh, tightly manage your broker's promises. Make sure your brokers, whether in your own company or in a contract brokerage, are on the same page as building management. Make sure the broker's promises are known to management and make sure they are kept. Your prospective tenants believe that their companies are unique and have special needs. Make sure your broker discusses any special needs requests with you before making any promises that you will have to keep. Good examples of these are that I've faced in the past, and others have, are exterior communication dishes or antennas, internet bandwidth capacity, and of course the more sensitive issues with tenants are parking and after-hours operation of the air conditioning system. The other one that is often a broker issue is promising occupancy before all permitting, insurance, and licensing are in place. And my personal favorite, promising occupancy before the lease is signed. You just set yourself up for a real disadvantage if something doesn't go right when they're moving in. Eighth, keep current with billings. In this market, tenants need predictability for their cash flow, as do the owners of the property. This also, if they're not current, can lead to unnecessary receivables or getting a tenant into the wrong business cycle by a long stretch. Make sure that all your billings for rent reimbursements and CAM reconciliations are current and in accordance with the lease. If there are bills that you are waiting for to complete the reconciliation, tell the tenants and tell them when you estimate they'll receive those bills so that they can anticipate when they might need to pay for those services. Ninth, be strong, be fair, be smart. After all of the areas that you've tried to address in keeping the tenant, sometimes retaining the tenant is not in the tenant's best interest or yours. Don't give up too easily, but when it's clear that the tenant isn't going to make it, figure out an acceptable exit. This saves legal fees, minimizes the impact a failing tenant will have on the property and other tenants, and it saves your owner's reputation. It then gives the property an opportunity to prepare the space for a viable tenant. Other issues that can come up in this is your lease. If your lease is more than 10 years old, make sure that it is updated to deal with the way the property is operated today rather than 10 years ago. Areas that may have changed over time are building hours of operation, building holidays, description of how the space is measured, like whether it's measured on a rentable or usable area, and how those measurements are used in calculating either the rent or the operating expense percentages. This is an area, too, where your brokers can help you a lot to let you know what items get discussed with the tenants in going through the lease. I personally do not believe in tenant questionnaires. It's better to have appointments to talk with each tenant over a period of time than to send out a general survey. What you often get back is something from one fussy employee that has a problem rather than a measure of the general satisfaction with your property. The manager can deal with the fussy employee's requests through the tenant rather than subject the entire building to an issue that is not a widespread concern. Today, the manager's job is still dealing with the difficulty of satisfying two publics: the owner who desires ever-increasing NOI, or net operating income, and the tenants who need affordable, well-managed commercial space. In the current market, balancing these needs often requires great diplomacy, but can be quite key in maintaining a stable occupancy. Your tenants are also one of your marketing agents, as they will tell their family and friends how they feel about your building. Keeping the majority of your tenants happy is your objective, but resign yourself to the fact that you can't keep all of them happy. However, it is rewarding to try to keep them happy. Thank you.
Susan, I want to thank you for that presentation on behalf of NAIOP and our audience. The people really got some great takeaway value out of that your presentation today, and really will help them keep their tenants happy and renewing. For those of you who want to hear the presentation again, it will be available by close of business today, and that's along with all the other past solutions programs. It's on the NAIOP corporate website at naiop.org. And when you go there, click on the large button on the front page that says Solutions Series. For the next program, which will air on June 10th, you'll receive an email from NAIOP Corporate with details about that topic and presenter. In addition to these short online briefings, NAIOP also offers 90-minute webinars, and those are for topics that require a more in-depth educational experience. The next full webinar takes place on Thursday, June 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to feature popular futurist David Pierce Snyder. David's commentary will predict which services and industries will have the biggest projected employment gains and losses between now and 2016, and how and where they will drive demand for commercial real estate space. The cost of David's full webinar is $125 for NAIOP members and $189 for non-members. And to register for the full webinar, you just go online to naiop.org/webinars. Thanks for attending our session today. Please let us know what topics and presenters you would like to hear from in future programs. Be part of the solution. Goodbye for now.